Gildan Media, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Complete Guide to Mergers and Acquisitions, Process Tools to Support M&A Integration at Every Level, 3rd edition, by Timothy J. Galpin and Mark Herndon, narrated by Paul Heitsch. Publisher's note: this audiobook has bonus material. Please contact whomever you purchased this audiobook from to request the material. All figures and tables referenced in this audiobook can be found in the bonus material. Forward. Building M&A Integration Capabilities as a Competitive Advantage, by Jim Jeffries, co-founder and chairman, M&A Leadership Council. This book is not an introduction to merger and acquisition integration or even what defines good integration. Rather, it is the definitive how-to book on M&A integration. Like the 2nd edition before it, this will become the essential manual for successfully integrating organizations. The 3rd edition has been updated to include a significant number of breakthroughs that have emerged over the last few years and which now are validated as best practices that make a substantive difference in the financial, operational, and organizational performance of companies before, during, and after integration. I have been personally involved with mergers and acquisitions for the last 20 years in some form or another, and have watched the practices and outcomes change dramatically. As recently as 15 years ago, most acquirers did very little, if any, integration planning until after legal close. This happened for a variety of reasons. Many organizations focused almost exclusively on the transaction until it was complete, then merely threw the integration over the transom to unsuspecting and previously uninvolved functional leaders. Other organizations viewed due diligence and integration as distinctly different processes that, at best, were loosely aligned but not effectively coordinated. Still other organizations interpreted antitrust and anti-competition laws to mean that literally no information could be exchanged prior to closing and no amount of pre-closing integration planning could take place. Regardless of the reasons, the results were the same. Most integration work commenced when it was already too late. Organizations would become galvanized by ambiguity, uncertainty, and delay between the announcement and close. Performance would decline, and talent and customers would leave. The result was the startling statistic from countless studies that 70% of deals underperformed or became outright failures. During the 1990s, serious acquirers began working at getting better at M&A integration. Highly experienced and skillful integrators like GE, Cisco Systems, IBM, and others pioneered best practices such as defining standardized integration processes, accelerating the pace of integration, implementing more effective communications, and dealing with disparate cultures. These practices had a demonstrable positive impact. For the minority of companies who really understood the can and can'ts between announcement and close and took advantage of detailed planning, the rewards were significant and the metrics for successful mergers improved. For example, many of the best acquirers began detailed integration planning right after a deal was announced and were prepared for action on day one, immediately after legal close. This was a breakthrough at the time. However, when those of us who studied Tim Galpin's and Mark Herndon's previous editions of this book, among the many tools, templates, and examples we found was that their integration timeline recommended some actual integration-related activity before the announcement itself. Beginning with the 1st edition, published in 1998, and reflecting practices refined through many prior integration assignments, Herndon and Galpin were already advocating that integration begins with due diligence. It was a subtle but enlightened forecast of emerging practices occurring today. Detailed integration planning prior to close and similar improvements were big steps forward 15 years ago. But even now, results continue to languish behind the full value potential of most deals. Acquirers are clearly on the right track, but we must push integration farther to the front of the M&A process than ever before. Unless organizations are determined to discover, refine, and institutionalize an entire M&A capability that works in their specific environment, they will continue to destroy value and fail to achieve the full potential of most deals. Herndon, Galpin, and this book continue to be at the forefront of this important development. Their work, research, and publications highlight three essential elements that acquirers should adopt to ensure consistent, reliable achievement of superior integration results. While there are dozens of ideas, examples, and solutions presented throughout this book, executives should pay particular attention to these key principles. Mergers and acquisitions should be viewed as a single, end-to-end business process that seamlessly manages a transaction throughout the entire deal life cycle. Integration success must be pre-programmed by executive directional guidance prior to initial public announcement of the deal. Enterprise M&A competency is an important competitive advantage that must be built, maintained, and institutionalized as a core capability. M&A as an end-to-end business process. Herndon and Galpin present a simple framework spanning the entire life cycle from strategy and targeting through due diligence, integration, and long-term optimization. Key issues, actions, and requirements are identified at each stage, which interact to ensure maximum speed, value, and results. Each function and business unit in your organization can and should build from this framework by mapping the specific functional requirements and cross-functional dependencies at each stage of the M&A life cycle. Once that is accomplished, the playbook, or collection of tools, templates, work samples, and knowledge content, will enable integration to become much more efficient and effective, as all efforts will be more directly aligned with the overall priorities, timelines, risks, and objectives of each deal, rather than continuing to blindly execute detailed functional checklists without regard to the big picture or other requirements. Pre-programming integration success prior to the initial public announcement. A key game changer of today is the amount of integration-related work that must be done prior to the initial public announcement of the deal. Jack Prouty and other members of the M&A Leadership Council pioneered the concept we now call the Game Day Strategy Summit. We believe that Game Day, or Announcement Day, is one of the riskiest days in the life of the deal. Think about it. This is the day when the acquiring organization, the target organization, and their customers become destabilized. All stakeholders are thinking, "What about me?" Value destruction starts here and often continues unabated as the concerns most important to each stakeholder seem to take the executive team forever to clarify, resolve, and implement. There's always a natural tendency to defer consideration of the big issues, but delay, ambiguity, and lack of clear strategic guidance on major decisions will destroy results every time. There's a better way. Herndon's and Galpin's research identifies both the risks of not completing this essential step along with a clear best practice in the form of a facilitated management summit that determines the concept of operations for the merged entity and surfaces all the risks and strategies needed for an error-free announcement day and operational stability until close. Enterprise M&A competency as an important competitive advantage. Herndon and Galpin are the pioneers in developing and refining effective practices like Game Day. But for today's acquisitive company, everything must once again be rethought. Their groundbreaking research, reflected in Chapter 14 and in Resource C, addresses approximately 75 different elements across 12 major components of enterprise M&A competency. These components must be effectively addressed if you intend to transform your internal capabilities from a hero culture, where success is ground off of the backs of the willing few, to a true competitive advantage. This advantage will enable your leadership team to do more, bigger, more complex, and more consistently successful deals. Let me emphasize 3 important findings of their work. 1. Resourcing the integration. This is simultaneously both the single most prevalent best practice and the single most prevalent major remaining obstacle, according to sophisticated acquirers participating in Herndon's and Galpin's study. Frankly, even the best acquirers struggle to allocate the best and most experienced talent on M&A assignments. The typical approach to resourcing must change. 2. Training of M&A resources. Across the board, Herndon's and Galpin's research indicates that approximately 60% of organizations do not provide any type of formal training to their M&A teams. Is there any wonder the failure rate is so high when untrained, poorly experienced M&A teams are sent to the front lines to do integration work in addition to their normal full-time job requirements? This omission must be addressed. 3. Integration governance. Building off of the end-to-end process model, best-in-class acquirers are rewriting traditional M&A-oriented role descriptions to provide more functional and business unit involvement early on and throughout the transaction cycle, enabling continuity of the same key resources as a deal progresses through each stage of the M&A lifecycle. And finally, companies must commit to leveraging a few key full-time leadership roles on every deal to lead the integration management office in order to protect the performance of the acquired business during integration and orchestrate essential cross-functional dependencies. This book, once again, is the roadmap for those wanting to take their practices to the next competitive level. The Complete Guide to Mergers and Acquisitions, Process Tools to Support M&A Integration at Every Level, 3rd edition, is about the new requirements that will become the future practice norms for the most successful companies. It is not a book of speculation and imagination. It is based on research, observation, and experience. These concepts and techniques are in use by some today, and to survive in the competitive world of tomorrow, they need to become core capabilities for companies who take growth by acquisitions as seriously as organic growth. It is a clear competitive advantage to master this book. Please join me in thanking Mark Herndon and Tim Galpin for bringing this book, this research, this viewpoint to the M&A community. Enjoy it and use it. Jim Jeffries, co-founder and chairman, M&A Leadership Council, Dallas, Texas, July 2014. As co-founder and chairman of the M&A Leadership Council, www.maccouncil.org, Jim Jeffries, along with the council's corporate sponsors and M&A experts, have trained several hundred executives from best-in-class acquirers in virtually every industry segment in the art of M&A. As a C-level executive in multiple consulting firms, Jim's background includes P&L responsibility of both large and small firms through multiple stages of growth. One of Jim's integration clients was recognized by Business Week for delivering the greatest shareholder returns in all 302 mergers studied between 1995 and 2001. Preface. As the world economy emerges from the financial downturn of the past few years, merger and acquisition, M&A deal volume, is again reaching high levels. Unfortunately, management are still struggling to demonstrate the ability to guide their deals through the rocky waters of post-deal integration. Integration difficulties often stem from the people side of the deal, and they occur as a result of the change dynamics created by the merger. These dynamics heighten the resistance that people usually bring to the successful integration of two companies. Moreover, much of the needed talent, a key value driver for many deals, voluntarily leaves the organizations that are merging, and the departure of this resource also serves to derail the deal before its success can be achieved. This book's purpose and audience. The Complete Guide to Mergers and Acquisitions, Process Tools to Support M&A Integration at Every Level, was written as a pragmatic how-to text designed to aid integration leaders and participants at the enterprise level and at the functional or divisional level in realizing the advantages that can be created from a merger or acquisition. Its purpose is to provide executives and managers alike with tools, templates, and a proven process for efficiently and effectively combining two organizations. This revised third edition has added to the content of the first two editions in several key areas, including recent cross-industry research on the current state of M&A integration, a comprehensive deal flow model describing the best practices for conducting M&As from strategy through implementation and evaluation, clear case examples and results achieved by companies who have managed integration well, advice on how to handle situations requiring merger repair in the wake of integrations that have lingered or have not been managed well, a method for rapid assessments to quickly determine how well your organization is conducting M&As. Finally, a new section has been added to address how your organization can build internal M&A capabilities into an enterprise competency, leading to more consistent deal success. Overview of the contents. The 14 chapters in this revised third volume highlight both the time-tested and the latest best practices, as well as lessons learned with respect to the following M&A integration areas and issues. Recent research identifying the areas of integration most in need of improvement, activities conducted and questions confronted throughout the process of M&A integration, effectively conducting M&A due diligence that seamlessly transitions into the integration process, results that can be achieved through a sound integration approach, typical people-related dynamics created during an M&A deal, mistakes commonly made during integration, how to compare and combine company cultures, effective design, management, and coordination of the enterprise-wide integration process, clear integration leadership and decision-making, specific actions for creating measurable positive results, design and implementation of a well-thought-out communication strategy, retaining and recruiting key talent, capturing and measuring deal synergies, a clear process for integration staffing and selection, accelerating M&A integration at every organizational level, repairing integrations that have gone on too long or that have gotten off track. This revised third edition includes several new visual aids, tools, and templates that should prove extremely valuable during the integration process, as well as useful back-of-the-book resource sections that can serve as handbooks in themselves for facilitating effective, value-creating integration. As additional aids, the third edition now includes results of the State of M&A Integration Effectiveness Survey 2014, a new chapter on the M&A process deal stages with an expanded deal flow model, findings of substantial M&A research from various studies in multiple industries and organizations supporting the concepts presented throughout the book, new and revised tools and templates for due diligence, integration, and results measurement and reporting, new case examples of recent transactions, highlighted key principles throughout each chapter, a summary of key points at the end of each chapter, a discussion of questions addressing the key themes of each chapter, a rapid assessment diagnostic regarding the key elements of each chapter which can be completed for any organization, taking your M&A game to the next level, essential requirements for building M&A capabilities into a consistently successful enterprise competency. Acknowledgements. We've told the story many times about how we were forced to think about M&A as an end-to-end business process years ago through sheer desperation and by necessity, and long before M&A methodologies or playbooks were common. We had a project to run, and we had to get our team and our client aligned and on the same page in order to deliver a quality result. At first, we had to invent things on the fly, many times at night in the hotel room, and usually right before an important client meeting. But gradually, the methodologies took shape and, much to our relief, actually worked. With tremendous and insightful contributions from many friends, colleagues, and clients over the years, we have continued to seek practical solutions to help explain, visualize, train, and deliver quality client solutions that get results. To each of you who have contributed to this work, the client projects, and the development of a professional discipline in M&A integration, we are grateful for the time together and for your wisdom and influence in our professional lives. In particular, for this third edition, to Stephanie Snyder, Suzanne Lyles, and the entire team at M&A Partners, thank you for your support and important contributions to the survey and to the concept of M&A Partners Enterprise Competency Model and Merger Max Value Creation Map. We would also like to thank J. Lee Whittington at the University of Dallas College of Business for his input to our chapter on the deal flow model, Mike Prefontaine at Calypso Consulting for his input to the innovative stage of the deal flow model, and Joan Graham and Marshall Tucker for their reviews and insight that helped shape this third edition. Every book is a team effort, and it has been an honor and a privilege to work with the outstanding team of professionals at Wiley. A special thanks to each of the following talented individuals who have contributed to this work: Cedric Crocker, Vice President and Executive Publisher; Kathy Sweeney, Executive Editor, Business, Nonprofit, and Public Management; and our principal sponsor, who envisioned and drove this effort; Rob Brandt, Editorial Projects Manager and one of our original sponsors; Mark Carmody, Senior Production Editor; Janine Ray, Marketing Manager; and so many others who have contributed their expertise. Serving as copy editor, Christy Hine deserves special recognition and our sincere gratitude for patiently fixing our broken prose and mixed metaphors with such skill, insight, and good humor. Thank you all for your tremendous support. Finally, we owe a special debt of gratitude to Jim Jeffries, Jack Prouty, Melanie Endert, and all of the corporate sponsors and alumni organizations of the M&A Leadership Council. Your world-class expertise, mentorship, and friendship have made a profound impact on us and on this work. We share your commitment to further developing M&A integration as a professional discipline and enterprise capability. As the principal sponsor and underwriter of the survey authored for this book, The State of M&A Integration Effectiveness 2014, and as the premier source for M&A skills training, your efforts will continue to have an important and positive effect on corporate organizations, executives, and all those impacted by acquisitions for many years to come. July 2014. Timothy J. Galpin, Fort Collins, Colorado. Mark Herndon, Dallas, Texas. The authors. Timothy J. Galpin, Ph.D., is a clinical professor of management at Colorado State University, teaching strategy and entrepreneurship. His consulting, research, and publishing are in the areas of mergers and acquisitions, leading sustainable organizations, leadership effectiveness, and entrepreneurship. Prior to his teaching, Tim Galpin gained over 20 years of experience as a management consultant and business manager, working with boards and senior management around the world on strategic planning, strategy execution, merger and acquisition integration, divestitures, restructurings, human capital management, business productivity improvement, and organizational culture change. He still consults to firms on these topics. Tim Galpin's consulting clients have included numerous Fortune 500 corporations, including GE, GE Capital, Verizon, Cargill, Reliant Energy, Tampa Electric Company, London Life Insurance, Lyondell Equistar Petrochemicals, Quaker Oats, Armstrong Building Products, Prudential Insurance of Canada, Macrovision, Install Shield, Harrods UK, Safeway UK, Siemens, the Central American Retail Holding Company, Carco, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, and various agencies of the United States government. He has authored numerous articles appearing in Mergers and Acquisitions, Journal of Business Strategy, Handbook of Business Strategy, Training and Development, and HR Magazine on the topics of merger integration, strategy execution, corporate culture change, and organizational productivity. Galpin's other books include Making Strategy Work, Building Sustainable Growth Capability, and The Human Side of Change, A Practical Guide to Organization Redesign, both published by Jossie Bass. Tim Galpin can be contacted at Department of Management, College of Business, Colorado State University, 207 Rockwell Hall, Fort Collins, Colorado, 80523, 970-261-8999. tim.galpin@business.colostate.edu, www.tjginfo.com, and www.mergerresults.com. Mark Herndon serves as president of M&A Partners, where his practice includes M&A integration strategy and management, building internal M&A capabilities for corporate acquirers, due diligence, culture assessment and integration, and change management, communications, and leadership during periods of disruptive change. Previously, Mark served as president of Parkwood Advisors, a transaction advisory firm that supported private equity, family offices, and mid-market companies with M&A buy-side and sell-side transaction services, including strategy development and implementation, valuation, acquisition, growth, and distressed situation financing, due diligence, and restructuring and workouts. Mark formerly served as U.S. Region Leader for Merger and Acquisition Services with Watson Wyatt Worldwide, a global consulting firm with approximately $750 million in annual revenue. His clients include American Express Financial Advisors, Amoco, Boeing, British Petroleum, Cessna Aircraft, Chevron, Dell Computer, Dow Chemical, Equistar Chemicals LP, First Interstate Bank, General Electric, Hertz Celanese, J.C. Penney, Komatsu Dresser, Lyondell Petrochemical, Magma Copper, McNeil Consumer Products, Northern States Power, Occidental Chemical, Quaker Oats, Shell Oil, the Toledo Hospital, TRW, and Willamette Industries, among others. In addition to his business advisory work, Mark serves as Chief Knowledge Officer for the M&A Leadership Council, www.macouncil.org, a professional association devoted to establishing best practices among M&A practitioners, and as a board director for various private companies and faith-based and charitable organizations. Mark earned the distinction of Top 10 Graduating Seniors at Oklahoma State University, where he completed a Bachelor of Science degree. While in college, Mark served as the national president of the Future Farmers of America, a 500,000-member educational organization funded by the United States Department of Education. He subsequently earned an Executive Master of Business Administration degree from the University of Dallas at Texas. A dynamic professional speaker, Mark has presented keynote addresses and concurrent sessions to nearly 400,000 people in 45 states and 12 countries. In addition, he is the author of a popular weekly newsletter, Merger Monday Insights, available at www.mapartners.net, which is focused on value-added insights to help corporate acquirers build enterprise competency in M&A. Mark Herndon can be contacted at M&A Partners, 6860 North Dallas Parkway, Suite 200, Plano, Texas, 75024. 855-2-ACQUIRE, 855-862-2784, extension 702. mark.herndon@mapartners.net, www.mapartners.net. Chapter 1. Integration, where deal value is realized. It's Merger Monday. Among other transactions, another mega merger was announced today. This morning, industry leader Your Company announced an initial agreement to merge with industry giant Their Corporation. During a joint press conference, the two companies' CEOs described the combination as a true merger of equals. The two went on to state, "It's too early in the deal to begin planning for integration, but we are confident that the new company will be stronger together than either company."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?